an error. Let me see. Oh, I think it's on. Is it on? I am live. Okay, you guys, I'll be back in 30 seconds. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. So listen, I am going to just jump right into this. You know, we always begin with my introduction. So let me get my introduction going and I'll be right back. I'm back. Give me a second, you guys. Hey, everybody. Hey, thank you so much for joining me. So listen, I'm jumping right into this. I was watching TikTok and I was watching YouTube, and all of a sudden I saw TD Jakes' name flying everywhere. I mean, everywhere. And then I decided, I said, let me go and see what the world is going on. So let me go to the comments and check them out myself. And I went to the comments, and I want to say a couple things before I even begin. And by all means, please post comments. I'm going to try to look, everywhere so I can kind of see what's going on with everybody. I want us to kind of put it all on the table tonight. I mean, I'm like serious, because I'm about to just put it all on the table. And that's why I'm starting off with apologizing if I offend anyone. When I started ministry back in 1994, I started a group called Women of the Well. And when I started Women of the Well, my services were to the point that I would tell the truth. And I would use myself, I would use my family as examples, because that's the only way I knew how to do it. That's the only way I knew how to do it. I didn't know how to do it any other way when I was ministering, but to give examples on how things affected me and how I experienced it. And I found that when I did that, and when I was very truthful with what I was saying, it always blessed somebody else. And so I'm not going to do anything differently tonight. I'm going to act as if you all are in the congregation and we are talking. And so I'm going to be honest with you. I went back, and not only did I listen to TD Jakes' comments over and over and over again, but I also, wait a minute, I'm not live on, can somebody check to see if I'm live on Facebook? Oh, I'm live now. Okay. Yeah, we're live now on Facebook, so that must have been YouTube that we were live. But anyway, the only way I knew how to do it was just to put it all on the table and be honest with my thoughts and the things I was experiencing, because I didn't know how to use other people's experiences, and I didn't want to be the kind of minister whereas you couldn't relate to me. So every time I did that, someone always would be blessed because they found truth in what I was saying. And they found themselves in what I was saying. And I'm a firm believer that when you experience things in life, it is not just for you. It is for you to go through that experience to change somebody else's life. And so tonight, I'm going to apologize in advance, because I already know I'm going to offend somebody, because you know why? People are always offended by truth. People are always offended by truth. And so I want us to put on another type of hat tonight, because tonight we are going to just really put it all on the table. And if it's you, it's you. Okay. But I want to start off, so you're going to see me, go back and forth with my notes, because I decided to first of all understand what's the context of it. How did all of this start? Where did it come from? And so first of all, I realized, you guys, listening is fundamental to the soul. And a lot of times we get into mess because we simply won't listen. And so when I went back and I listened to TD Jakes' entire message from the beginning to the end, it just reiterated in my mind how we get into messes over and over and over again in our own lives, and how we get into messes again over and over and over again in somebody else's life, and how we just live a life of mess because we won't listen. We jump the gun too fast before we really begin to understand what is really going on. What was the context of this? What was the beginning? What was the end? And we got so many people flying with comments and remarks. So after I finish, you're going to find that a lot of these people are going to look like fools, literally, okay? Because I'm going to put it in the right context of what he was saying. And it's going to give you a thorough understanding of how we have this backlash going on today. And I'm also going to use myself as an example, okay? As an example, because I saw myself in a lot of things that he was saying. So first of all, this was a Father's Day message, you guys, that he did in June on Father's Day for his congregation. TD Jakes did this on Father's Day for his congregation, for the men in his congregation. He was talking to the men. He was talking to the men. Oh, we got these people flying. He bashing women. He's doing it. He was talking to the men. The title of his sermon was Real Men Pour In. Real men pour in. He was talking to the men. So we're going to go through this. I'm going to break this down. I'm going to use the scripture that he used, because you're going to begin to understand how mess gets started. And you're going to be able to begin to see, not only did it get started, as we saw on every social media platform that I know I saw, but it's the same identical stuff, how mess gets started in our lives. It's the same thing. So his text was John 15, 9 through 17. And I have to read this, because I'm going to read it in parts, because I have to give it to you and explain it to you how he was saying it. First of all, he says, 9, as the Father hath loved me, so have I loved you. Continue ye in my love. So he's already starting saying, men, God is saying, how I have loved you, so have I loved you. Continue ye in my love. He's telling the men, I want you to love and continue the love that I have given to you. That's how he's starting. Already we're starting to see right now, because we're starting to understand what the problem is. Then the next verse goes on and it says, if ye keep my commandments. So God was saying to the men, TD Jakes was relaying through word, through scripture, to the man, keep my rules. Do what you're supposed to do as I have done for you. Love as I have loved you. Keep my commandments, follow my rules, do as I say do, as I have done to you. That's what I want you to do. The next part of that say, ye shall abide in my love. Abide in my love. That means you're basking in the love of God, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. So what he's saying is that how God loved Jesus, that's how God loved Jesus. That's how God loves man. That's how man is supposed to love his wife. That's how man is supposed to love his children. That's how man is supposed to love, period. He's given a commandment. He's given a rule. He's telling him to obey. Then it goes on to 11. These things have I spoken unto you. So he said, I told you this. This is what I told you. Okay? That my joy might remain in you and that your joy might be full. That means you're full of so much joy and love that you are spreading it to your families. You are spreading it to your loved ones. You're spreading it to your children. You're spreading it. You're spreading it on your job. You're spreading it to people that come in contact. He's telling this to the man. He's telling this to the man. And then we go on to 12. This is my commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you. Again, he's giving them a command to obey. That ye love one another. Who is one another? Again, your families, your co-workers, your children, your wives. God is commanding the man to do this. As I have loved you. Now 13, greater love have no man than this. That means there's no greater love than this. Man should be loving, the men should be loving, because there's no greater love than that. That a man laid down his life for his friends. What does that mean? That means the man is sacrificing. He's sacrificing himself, not just for his family, but for his friends. For his friends. Then it goes on. It says, well, who are his friends? Ye are my friends. If ye do whatsoever I command you. So God is saying, you are my friend, but if ye do what I command you. What does that mean? That means you got to obey. He's talking to the man. We ain't got nothing to do with this. Why is everybody freaking out and acting crazy? We don't have anything to do with this. He's talking to the man. He's talking to the man. 15, henceforth, I call you not servants. Now, in this context, the servants is talking about slaves. He said, I'm not calling you a slave, for the slave knoweth not what the Lord doeth. But I have called you friends. What does this mean? Today, I had, was it today or yesterday? For those that don't, I'm just going to go ahead and tell. I know I've been toying around with you all on social media, but I literally bought a J.R. Cricket's restaurant for my children. Okay, and we're going to talk about that a little later. We actually are transitioning now the ownership, but I bought it for my children. And when I looked at this one, it reminded me of the meeting that we had yesterday. Because when it says, "But I have called you friends," see, they're talking to slaves. This verse right here is talking to slaves, servants, and God is saying, "No, you're not a slave to me. You're my friend." And so when we had our meeting, I was telling the staff, I don't want you to be employees of mine. I don't want you to be employees of my family. I want you to be a part of our family. I want you to be a part of what we do. I want to celebrate you. If you hurt, we're going to hurt. This is what we relate to them. My mother was on a call, and she like took her place like the mother of everybody at this point. This is what this is talking about. To the man. So he said, I don't want to call you a slave or servant. So those wives that feel like you are a slave in your household, or you feel like you're a servant in your household, you're not a slave. You're not supposed to be a slave. You're not supposed to be a servant. You're supposed to be a friend. For all the things that I have heard of my Father, I have made known unto you. Again, it's coming from for everything I've learned of who God is, who I've learned who he is. I'm making it known to you. See, now you're starting to see what a breakdown is and what T.D. Jakes was actually saying. Let's keep going. 16, you have not chosen me. God said, you didn't choose me, but I have chosen you. God is saying, you haven't chosen me. I chose you and ordained you. That means I have set you aside to the man, that ye should go and bring forth fruit, and that your fruit should remain. That means that when the man goes out in the household and he works, his his belonging, his money, what he's bringing, his fruit to the house, it should remain there. We're going to talk about later what the woman is supposed to do with the fruit. But that word remain is huge. It's huge because God is saying, ye should go and bring forth fruit, and that your fruit should remain in the household. You shouldn't be spending up all the money. You shouldn't be squandering the money. You shouldn't be smoking up the money. You shouldn't be drinking up the money. You shouldn't be wasting the money. Man, talking to the man. That whatsoever ye shall ask of the Father, again, the man's going to the Father. Whatever you ask for the Father in my name, he may give it to you. Talking to the man. Whatever the man asks of God, whatever the man asks of God in his name, that he shall give it to him. These things I command of you. Again, a command. The man should what? Obey. That ye love one another. This is the command of the man, that ye should love one another. So again, T.D. Jakes is talking to the man in all of this context that we're talking about. So now I want to take this a step further, because now you kind of understand where he was going and those comments that he was making. We're going to get to all of that. We're going to get to all of that. But that is the content and the context that it was coming from. So what we're talking about is how love should be reflected in life. And so again, you're going to see me look down because I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to miss anything, because how we have done today, the mess that we have started today, his entire comments were taken out of context. And not only his comments, but the context that he was given love was totally taken out of context. This was about real men pour in. That was the title of it, real men pour in. And so those scriptures just gave you context and understanding how they should go about pouring in. And so the question is, well, who are they pouring into? Anybody that comes into their presence, even down to the people that they may consider servants or employees. It's anybody that comes in contact and comes in contact with them. Anybody. Because remember, it was a command and they are supposed to obey. Our households are depleted because the men aren't pouring in. The men aren't pouring in. So we're going to begin to understand. We know why. I mean, we understand what they should be doing, but we don't understand why they're not pouring in. Why they're not pouring in, because it's so much going on now that we want to put fault with everybody, but no one has an understanding of why are we putting fault. Why are we putting fault on the woman? Why are we putting fault on the man? Why is this person cheating? Why is this person wasting the money? Why is this person not building up? Why is this person tearing down? We don't know why. It's just happening. And it's happening everywhere. I've experienced it. You experience what Oprah say? You experience it. You experience it. You experience it. We all have experienced it. We all have experienced it. But nobody has ever taken the time to answer why. You got to see the setup that happened today. Because once again, this is what we do over and over again in our lives. Things are put out. Things are presented to us. And then people begin to twist it and turn it. It has happened to me in my life. For those that don't know, I'm sure you know, because you see my testimony. I walked away from a marriage. I walked the heck out. I got out. And now I understand why. This context today has given me an understanding, because I was depleted. I was depleted. I had nothing else to give because I was not being poured into. Women, you're tired. You're tired. But you got to identify the why am I tired? Because nobody's pouring into you. You're pouring into everybody else. I have four girls. 4. All of them within 2 to 3 years of each other. Okay? There's a 10-year span, and all of. I remember one year I had one at pre-K, I had one at elementary, I had one at middle school, and I had one at high school. I was PTA president, going to the cheerleaders, packing the lunches, washing the clothes, fixing the dinner, fixing the Sunday dinner, going grocery shopping, going to work, coming back from work, giving baths, doing hair. Oh my God. It's still trying to be 100% of me. See, I'm not just talking about me, because we all have experienced this. We all have experienced this. I'm talking to the women now. But it's time to understand, why are these things happening? Where is the disconnect? Do we lay fault with somebody? No, we can't lay fault with anybody. As much as I would want to lay fault with my ex-husband, much as I would want to lay fault, I can't lay fault with him. I can't. You know why? Because now, and which I kind of understood back then, no one poured into him. He wasn't poured into, so where is he to get it from? You know, when I look at my relationship with my own father and how we went through a really, really rough time, to the point at one point in time, I stopped speaking to my dad. I stopped speaking to him. And I'm so happy that God gave us grace that we were able to mend our relationship. And it was very, very strong up until the day that he passed. It was very, very strong, to the point I was literally laying by him when he took his last breath. He gave me the gift of watching him transition from this earth to heaven. And so when I look at that relationship on when it was rocky with my father, you know, and the things that I didn't appreciate that he did and how he acted and how he behaved, I realize now, did my dad really have it to give to me? Did he really have it? And now when I look back and I think of the stories that my mom, you know, told me when my father was younger, what have you, and my, you know, the stories I have heard when my father was younger, I don't think my father was really poured into. I don't think he was poured into, because the one thing, when you're poured into, you're full. You're full. And what happens when you're full? What happens when you begin to overflow? It begins to spill over to other people. It begins to spill over. The goodness, the joy. That's when we read the scripture. It says you become full of love. That's what happens. But if you're depleted, what's going to happen? If you're depleted, where are you going? You have nowhere to go but out the door, because the whole household is now depleted. And that's what happens. Let me keep going. Men are damaged. They're damaged. And I'm going to tell you, and I know, you know, you want me to, you know, I know you probably think this is going to be a man bashing time, and it's not. It's not. I'm not going to bash the men, but I may say a couple things that sting. I'm going to be honest with you. I might say a few little things that sting. We sure ain't done with this yet. But I realize they're damaged. And by them being damaged, it's causing a breakdown in the entire household. And what's happening at this point? Women, we are trying to pour into ourselves. We don't have any choice but to pour into ourselves, because no one's pouring into us. No one. Just think about yourself right now. And if we have men that's listening, men, just give me a second, because I want to talk to the ladies right now. I want you to think about your own life, and I really want you to ask yourself, who is pouring into you? Especially if you're married and you're in a relationship, is that man really truly pouring into you? And you'll know it, because you'll feel it. Okay, you will feel it. Our households are failing because men are not pouring; they're taking. They're taking from us, and that's what's keeping us depleted. All that stuff I just said earlier, all the things that a woman has to do. Okay. On top of now, give you sex, okay, make love to you. We already tired, and now on top of all that other stuff, now we got to give up our bodies, and if we don't, now you mad. But we're tired, because we got to pour into ourselves, we got to pour into our children, and we are pouring into you, and you're expecting us, and then now we know all of this is backwards. As they say, it is a backwards, okay? Because the pouring is not going in the right direction. This is what T.D. Jakes was talking about. The pouring is not going in the right direction. I got to keep reading my notes. Okay. So I already talked about that. Now, when we talk about men pouring into us, and remember the scripture we were talking about when we talked about the fruit, that the man brings the fruit and the fruit is supposed to remain in the household. So now I'm going to tell you what are the steps that the woman is supposed to do with the fruit. And I have heard this so many times. I don't know if you all have heard Miles Monroe before, but Miles Monroe broke this part all the way down in a sermon that he did when he talked about what a woman does. See, first of all, as a woman, we already know we reproduce. That's what we're supposed to do. We reproduce, okay? We give you the children. We help you multiply your seed. That's what we do. But in real life, when the man brings us the fruit, we increase the fruit. We appreciate the fruit, okay? And we know how to multiply the fruit. This is what we do. If we talk about our children, we know how, like what I'm doing with my babies right now. I know how to take each one of my daughters and I'm building them. I'm building them. And I'm telling you, after I walked away from my marriage, and I say I walked away, and it's okay. I walked the heck away. Okay. I had enough. And I told you, I'm not going to sugarcoat this tonight. It is what it is. Okay. Because I was depleted, but I saw also, I also realized, that if I had not walked away, what would have happened with my children? My children had stopped growing. My children were sad. My children were upset on just with the experience of the household. It was terrible. It was terrible. And I knew it was an incident that happened with my baby girl. And it was at that time that I said, I'm getting the heck out of here and I'm taking her with me. Because all my other children had already gone. Okay. After I did that, I saw my children begin to get their lives back a little bit at a time. You know why? Now you have to look at this now. That's why I say I have to use myself because that's the only way I know how to use this. While I was in that bad relationship, I couldn't grow anymore. My growth was stunted. I could not grow anymore. I was done. At that point, I was just surviving. I had nothing else more to give. Okay? I had nothing else more to give. I didn't even know how to give anymore because I was mentally depleted. But by me not being able to pour into my children, okay, that also made them become depleted. It began to become a spiral effect. He didn't care. He kept on doing what he was doing and just whatever he was doing. He was clueless. He didn't see the spiritual and the emotional effect, or he did not care. Okay. If he saw it, he didn't care. But where we were, I saw what was happening and I knew I had to break. So as soon as I broke out of it, it took a minute, but I began to build my children back a little bit at a time. They started to one block at a time. One block. I had to deal with each child individually. I was tired. I had to, because it was so much I had to do to build myself back up. And that's another thing. When I first left, I was no good because I had to build myself. I had to rewrite my entire life. I had to start all over again. And I did. But I found that when I began to get my strength back, and it took some time, that's the thing, it took some time. Once I began to get my strength back, then I was able to build my children back. One child at a time, I was able to build them back to the point now they're some bad little girls. And that's why when I began to build them back, to get them to begin to see the impossible and have visions and goals and desires for your life. But I had to be present into them. What did I have to do? I had to pour into them. Do you all see the relationship that I'm talking about? I had to go back to, remember I was pouring into everybody. I was pouring. That's why my behind was tired. Because I wasn't the one that was supposed to be pouring. I was not the one that was supposed to be pouring at all. Women, when we just pour, what does that look like? We just give. Tired, still give. You just keep giving to the point that you have nothing else to give. And some women go to their grave, never appreciated, never loved, never poured into. Nobody loves them. Nobody ever cooked for them. Look, Big Mama, what we love, Big Mama's collard greens. Big Mama got a slave, but Big Mama got to pull get the collard greens. Got to pull the leaf off the collard greens. Got to wash it. Ain't nobody in there helping Big Mama. We just waiting with our fork for Big Mama to get them done. This is what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not saying that Big Mama might not want to cook, but we have to get to the point that we don't use people. And we don't deplete people. And we don't take advantage of people. And the men are the one, as T.D. Jakes was saying, it is their responsibility to pour. They're the ones that's supposed to be pouring. Women, we don't pour. What do? We increase, we appreciate, and we multiply. When you bring that fruit in the house, we're going to show you how to multiply. That's what we do. But what is happening now, all of this stuff is backwards, and that's why our families are breaking up. That's why women are saying enough is enough. Because men aren't pouring, they're waiting to be poured into. They're waiting for women to take care of them. They're waiting for someone to take care of them. Whew, let's keep going. Let me read my notes for a minute because I don't want to miss any of this. All right. Now, this okay, I'm going to speak on this one. The scripture says, a man that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. This is the thing. A man should find a wife. A man should find a wife. But what's happening now, a man is finding a wife to take care of him. A man is not finding a wife to find somebody and say, I'm going to pour into you. I'm going to love you. I'm going to bring the fruit to you, to help you increase it and multiply it. I'm going to pour into you to the point that, hey, here it goes. I'm going to know how to pray for you. I'm going to understand that when you are depleted and you're tired, I'm going to take over to help you. This is what it's supposed to be looking like. When we talk about, T.D. Jakes gave an example in that very sermon. If y'all can't go back and look at it, he gave an example in that sermon. This is him giving an example now. He said that his wife's brother, something was happening with the wife's brother. I can't remember that right now, but it was something with the brother. So go back and watch it. And I don't think the brother had died, but it was something that was happening with the brother that got his wife very upset. And he said from being married to her as long as he has, they have nonverbal communication. You know why? Because he has poured into her so much that they are one souls. So he said when his wife was having a hard time with this situation that was happening with his brother, he went over to her and he began to pray for her. Immediately in my mind, I said, now, T.D. Jakes, how many of these men do you really think, first of all, are able to identify or even care when their wife has had a hard day or upset about something, or their girlfriend or whoever they're with? How many of them think really even care? Or how many of them do you think can identify when they're just looking at them instead of having to ask, what's wrong with you? See, he didn't have to ask his wife what was wrong with her. He already sensed something was wrong with her, okay? But he said he went over to her, nonverbal communication, and just began to pray for her. See, that was his example of a man pouring in. I couldn't even get my ex-husband to go to church, okay? And look, and at one point I was the pastor of the church, and he never went. He went when I told him I was leaving with him. That was his only time coming, because I guess at that point he wanted me to pray for him, but it was too late. It was too late at that time. And I'm telling you, this is the truth, okay? But the point I'm trying to make is that for a man to be able to pour into a woman, for a husband to be able to pour into a wife, he has to be, again, know those steps to do that. So again, if God is poured into him, he has to take that same kind of pouring into the wife, into the children, into the people that come in his presence. This is the breakdown. And this is what T.D. Jakes was referring to. See, we're at the point right now, and this might not be for everybody, but this is me speaking. And I can speak because I'm on my platform. I just feel like we're in a state right now that men are just simply just taking advantage of women. I really do. I think we're just in a state. And the women, I think we need to hold ourselves accountable also, because I think we have set ourselves up to be taken advantage of. And I think, and again, I'm going to use myself as an example, because we are givers. We can't help it. We're givers. But the thing is, we're giving and we have nothing to give. For myself, I gave. I remember one time my mother made a statement. She said, listen, you do too much for them. You know, she said, you do too much for them. She said, let them do some things. Okay. I remember her saying that to me. She said, let them kids do some things. Make him responsible for that. I remember her saying that. And I didn't know how not to give. And I didn't realize, now I do, but I didn't realize it was okay for me to give. It was okay for me to give. But what was not okay is for me to be given and no one was pouring into me. That's the part that wasn't okay. And that's the part that's not okay in our families. And that's the part that's not okay with what's going on in society. And that's the part that T.D. Jakes was trying to relay to everybody, but they done flipped it and turned it and just made a mess of this. And now they made a mockery of a very good message where he was holding the men accountable. He was holding them accountable. I mean, you got women all on TikTok. I saw one earlier. She's talking about, I thought I knew you. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I'm saying to myself the whole time, that's our problem. We don't listen. We don't listen for understanding. We just jump to, and think we know what we're talking about, and everything is all screwed up and everything is all messed up. I think that men are taking advantage of us. Sometimes when I turn on my social media, it breaks my heart when I see these little girls with, doing these dances now with their behinds all up in, turned up where you can see it. And they're shaking. And the thing about it, I know the kids should dance and I know that they should have fun. But what's happening now, it vexes my soul. It makes me sad. It makes me sad. And I know the children are doing it because it's not a man in the household that's pouring into her. And then you have the men that are capitalizing off of them. They're capitalizing off our children, off our little girls. And they, again, taking, and not pouring into them, not showing them that you're worth more. You are more. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. No, it's not time for me to take a break. TikTok was trying to tell me to take a break. I am not taking a break. Okay, I won't keep this thing going. But letting them know that you're beautiful. You don't have to do those things. But again, I understand why. Because you're not being poured into. So let me use go back and use my daughters as an example. When I left, when I worked on me, when I got me together, when I got me together and I was able to start back giving some of me and pouring into my children, then they started taking off. And now, I mean, God is just blessed. That's all I'm going to tell you. God has just blessed. One thing I have seen is that when men don't pour how they're supposed to pour, just like the scripture just said, when men don't pour and they just take, if they don't get, they might just go ahead and catch temper tantrums. What does that look like? Begin to cheat, begin to make the household, hell with having attitudes and behaviors or what have you. Now that begins to affect the woman. So what do we begin to do? What we begin to do is now we retaliate and we stop giving them sex. We stop cooking. Oh yeah, because this is what I did. I sure did. I shut it down. I said, you ain't touching me. That's it. I ain't cooking another thing. I'm done. Because when I was depleted, it was over. It was over. It was a wrap. It was done. But it was nothing else more to give. So what's happening now, if the men aren't pourers, but they're takers, and if they don't get what they want to get, there's a breakdown in the family, case in point, divorce, okay, the split. But what happens? Now, let me tell you what happens, and this is what I see, and I even lived this, and I didn't even realize that I'm a doggone statistic now. That woman that was the poor, remember now, she's been pouring. She ain't supposed to pour. But that's all she's learned how to do. Okay, Mick. That's all she learned how to do is pour. What we begin to do is we take that energy of pouring. When we begin to pour all that stuff in ourselves, that's why you see when these women get divorced, they be taken off. They be getting degrees. They get degrees. They get raises on their job. They open multiple businesses. I mean, I took off about like lightning. To the point I just told y'all, my daughters have a restaurant. That is going to see everything they want to do. I actually have a car, I'm an auto broker, starting to sell luxury cars. I started doing things just simply because I figured out how to do it. And that's not including my other stuff that I was already doing. This is on top of that. Business upon business, degrees upon degrees. Organizations, going places I've never gone before. I understand. I'm not bragging, you guys, but I want you to see how this works. When we divorce, especially for women who have put out, when I say put out, that we did what we were supposed to do. We loved how we were supposed to do. We took care of the children. We took care of the household, and we're still taking advantage of it, still abusing, still cheated upon, and still mocked. You'll see, you'll be able to see this. That woman will begin to thrive because she begins to pour into herself. And then she has children. Those children will begin to thrive because she pours into the children, because she has learned how to pour. So when T.D. Jakes when he made the comment that our women have now begun to act like men, that's what he was talking about. Why is everybody, again, taking it out of context? He was defending us. He was defending the women. And we took it all out of context. All out of context. What we have to do, we have to learn to keep it in context, and we have to learn to listen. We have to learn to listen. And so at this point where we're talking about this woman, how she begins to go up the ladder, how she begins to, I'm sorry, Instagram. Okay, I got low. I might have to go to another phone with you. How she begins to go on the ladder, and then that same thing begins to happen with those children. You can see it. You can see, you look at other marriages or relationships that have broken up where that woman really was positioned. She was doing what she's supposed to do. Just look and see what happens. You can, I'm telling you, it happens over and over and over again. But what happens to the man that wasn't the poor, but was the taker? He will repeat the same cycle all over again. He will find a woman that is in that same type of mentality, that is pouring, that is giving, that is loving, and it starts all over again. The cycle, I have seen it happen. The cycle starts over again. And you can physically see it. And what is happening? It's a spiritual thing. Until we understand what our place is, T.D. Jakes was not being disrespectful when he says a woman needs to understand her place. We do need to understand our place. Because when we understand our place, we understand how this thing is supposed to be going. We understand who is responsible to do what. You're responsible for, that's not me. I'm the one that's supposed to increase, appreciate, and multiply. See, we understand what our roles are. Society has messed us up. And I hate to say this. I know I might get backlash, but oh well. The Black church has messed us up. The Black church has messed us up because we're not holding anybody accountable. We're not holding anybody accountable like we should be holding people accountable. All right. So now let me look back. I've already told you. So I want to show you this because this is the analogy that he used, and I love doing this because this began to really bring it home. TD Jakes had a glass, and I brought it because I want to show you how he said, so go back and look at it, but it was so powerful. So if I was to take this glass, and I'm sure everybody can see it now, if I were to take this glass and I began to drink, I'm not getting anything. Nothing. I don't care how thirsty I am. I don't care how thirsty I am. Nothing is going in. The glass is empty. So in order for me to be nourished, something has to pour into the glass. I love when he did this because it brought it home. Something has to pour into the glass. I don't care if I'm thirsty right now and I need something to drink. There's nothing in here to pour me. So I'm going to continue to be thirsty. I'm going to continue to do whatever I can to quench my thirst. The woman doing whatever she can. Are you understanding? So if we begin to get a container, okay, the pour into the glass, and I begin to pour, well, nothing is coming out. Because the thing that's supposed to be pouring into the glass is empty. It's empty. The husband, if he hasn't been poured into, he has nothing to give. That's why I ain't mad with my ex-husband. Because I realized you ain't had nothing to give. I expected too much. You just didn't have it. You just didn't have it. You didn't have it to give. Nobody showed you how to give. That's why you're just going to keep complete. You're going to keep circling the same cycle. You're going to keep doing the same cycle over and over and over again until you learn how to pour into yourself. Until you begin. Remember, I tell you what happens when you begin to overflow. When you begin to overflow, you don't want bad for anybody. Go back and look at my testimonies and see what I had to go through after I left. Go back and check my TikTok. I don't know where they are. I don't think I know one time I had on a red shirt. I think that was a red blouse. But go back and see what happened after I left, okay? Because somebody that's depleted and they don't have anything in them, and you begin to pull away, you walk away, remember that they don't have anything. So what you think is going to happen? They're going to do everything they can to make sure you become empty too and you never fill yourself up. This is it, you guys. It makes common sense at this point. If we would have just listened to TD Jakes and understood what he was trying to say, we would have gotten it. Empty plus empty equals empty. Husband, wife, children, everybody's empty. Everybody's depleted. And the wife is still trying to drink, trying to get something to quench her thirst and her throat, and there's nowhere to go. But oh boy, if you find somebody, and this is the part where it gets good, and this is how I know how to roll from this point forward. If you get somebody that's filled up, if you get somebody that, listen, has an overflow, they got enough to pour for you, the children, and everybody else. And the wife, the woman, their thirst, they have to quench their thirst. And you get somebody now that's able to pour into you. Now you got enough to give to you. You got enough to give to the children. You got enough to give to everybody else. And the thing about it is that this man ain't depleted. What did we talk about earlier? And this is the part that wasn't in TD Jakes, but I'm taking this part here because God is giving it to me now. This man is not depleted because he knows how to get himself filled up. He knows how to go to God. He knows how to pray. He knows how to do right. He knows how to act right. He knows how to behave right. And he knows that each time that he does, God is going to, bless his fruit and give the fruit to the wife to know how to begin to pour in. I'm telling you guys, you got to understand who and what is supposed to be pouring into you. Are you with someone that simply, they're empty? They don't have anything to give. They don't have anything to give. You can't get mad at them. I cannot get mad. I am not mad. Because I realize and I understand. I can't get mad with you. You're not filled up. How could I have expected you to fill me up? You're not filled up. You didn't know how it went. Okay, we got some comments over here. Miss Bernay, you said my dad poured into me, but my ex-husband did not. After my divorce, the men I dated did not pour into me. Let me show her comment so you guys can see it. So she said after her divorce, the men I dated did not pour into me either. So she gets it. She understands. that it just cannot happen. And I hope from this illustration, first of all, I hope that everybody that's listening to me this evening would have a complete understanding that we need to go back and understand that we need to apologize to Bishop T.D. Jakes. Now, let me say this. When he was talking about the part that you think you're fine and you wear Gucci and and I mean he did the little rundown. Y'all go back and listen to it. He wasn't talking to us. He was talking to the man. He wasn't even talking to women. He was talking to the man. But we have just twisted it and turned it. And it broke my heart when I listened to that message from the beginning to end. I said he wasn't even talking to the women. When he said that part, he was talking to the man. That you think you got all this and that's what lures her in, but you put the woman, because what happens is that she may be attracted, make her attracted to what you have and being fine and having the expensive watch. And he's saying you wearing the Gucci, you smelling good, and you fine. And you going up the corporate ladder. He wasn't talking to the woman. He was talking about this is what the man does. So we got to go back and listen to it, but we owe him an apology. I got another comment here. The Black church is the biggest thing holding Black people back. I believe that. I believe it. And I know some people might be cringing to hear me say it because like I said before, I was a preacher. I still am a preacher. I just do it in a different way now because I have a different understanding. I have a more of a deeper understanding on what this world really is and how we all really come together, and not just us. I mean, I have such a profound respect for nature now because I get it. I see God's handwriting in the sky. I understand it. You know why? Because I took the time to pour into myself. And I take this and I pour it into my children. That's why my children got it going on right now. They got it going on because I understood that they needed to be poured into after my cup was filled up and after I was taken care of and I was healed. They began to understand. You guys, I want to just thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end now. See, we got comments over here on TikTok. Someone saying, yes, Lord. Definitely, yes, Lord. But I do want to end with this. Just because you have a man in the house, and I'm going to say this, I want to say this very carefully, and this is to the women. Just because you have a man that's in the house, it doesn't mean you have a man that's in the home. And listen to what I'm saying. Just because you have a man that's in the house, it doesn't mean you have a man that's in the home. And women, I will say this too. If you have a man that's pouring into you, if you have a man that's pouring into you, he respects you, he loves you, he appreciates you, he pours into you, he spends time with your children and you all's children together, and he treats you like a queen. He doesn't cheat on you. He doesn't backbite. If you have this, okay, and you'll know if you have it because you won't feel depleted. You'll feel love. Appreciate him because that's the gift. This is the gift that T.D. Jakes was telling all the men that they needed. That's how they needed to behave. This is what he was explaining. That they had to be positioned to bring the fruit and let the fruit stay in the household to give to the woman to do what she needed to do it. They need to be the one to pray for the woman, not the takers. And we can see the takers because the takers are using and abusing women all day long. And so what T.D. Jakes was saying and having an understanding is that the woman is tired. The woman's tired. Why is there a breakdown in the family? Because some women don't have any more. They have no more to give. They don't know how to see. I was blessed because I knew how to position myself. I knew how to say, deuces, I'm out. Okay, that's because I just got that fire in me. I just ain't going down. That's just me. I'm just not going down. Okay, deuces. So when I did the deuces, I knew how to go and heal myself. I knew how to go and take my time and get me back a little bit at a time. And I knew if I stayed right there, I knew if I just stayed right there and I did what I was supposed to do, And I stayed focused on me. And I stayed focused on what God was telling me and what I was hearing. I knew that I was going to be able to turn that thing around. And I did. Some of you all have watched me. Some of you all have watched me from 2018, from the time I left that house of July 2018 to where I am now. You have watched me grow one brick at a time. Do you all know? Oh boy, I might get in trouble for this one, but whatever. When I left July 2018, I didn't divorce until 2020. So again, go back and look at that TikTok to see all that stuff I had to go through. Because I mean, he gave it to me. By December 2018, my children were already being introduced to the mistress. Okay, I wasn't even divorced yet. So I'm trying to tell you the pain that I was going through, the situation that I was put upon. I was depleted. I'm going back here. Depleted. I was depleted. My children were depleted. Some of you all are experiencing, maybe not that. Maybe you're experiencing something that was worse. Maybe you experienced something that was worse than that. We all have our own cross to bear, but at the end of the day, if you're not being poured into, it's not going to happen. We have another comment here. Oh, okay, Reverend James, thank you for listening in. Okay, she said she's going to come back and listen to the whole thing. But at the end of the day, what we all need to do is get this message out. First, we need to make sure that we're getting the message right. That's the first thing. The next thing we need to make sure is that if nobody's not pouring into us, how the men have been charged to be the poorest. If a man is not pouring into you, if a man is disrespecting you, he is breaking the commandment of God. And that's what's making these families break down, which T.D. Jakes was sharing with us before everybody twisted his message all the way around and turned it. And it wasn't what he was saying. He was charging the men and telling the men, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be the poorest. And y'all are taking. You're taking. That's why our families are breaking down. That's why our girls don't have self-respect for themselves, because the men aren't pouring. The title of his sermon was Real Men Pour In. That was the title of the sermon. Real men pour in. That means real men, going back again, are porous. Real men are porous until our cup is overflowing. If you got a man that's taking your self-respect, taking your money, taking your dignity, just taking to the point that as the woman, you have nothing left, then there's going to be a cross for that man to bear. And one thing I'm going to say again, if the cycle is not broken, the cycle will be repeated. Remember that. We got a question here. Well, who pours into the men? Well, apparently you don't miss the whole message, because it's not our responsibility to pour into the men. If you go back to, what was our scripture again? Let me go back, you guys. John 15, 9 through 17. God starts off to say that He's the one that pours into the men. The men are the poor. So if the man is not seeking God, he is already breaking his commandment. He is already breaking the covenant that he has with God. You guys, you got to begin to understand and have an understanding of how this is supposed to be working, and how, remember I told you from the very beginning, now you have the why. You know why things are happening. You know why our families are breaking down. You know why people can't get along. You know why we have such a profound disrespect and I'm talking to the Black people now. We all should be ashamed of ourselves of what we did to T.D. Jakes today, because we don't listen. We don't pay attention. We don't have an understanding. Until we stop and you begin to take responsibility for yourself, until we stop and take responsibility in understanding that before I roll with something, let me listen to the whole story. I remember when I left my ex-husband and people started saying stuff and doing stuff, I just sat back and didn't say a word. It was so many lies going forth. So it was so many lies. I was just numb to it. To the point my mother was so upset by the stuff that she had heard and stuff that she had read and the stuff that was going around. I mean, it upset her, because she knew her child. She knew that this was not me, but people ran with it, and that's why I am so, my heart is aching right now for what has happened in the TD Jakes, but because people crucified him the same way, and they didn't even listen to the message. Y'all didn't even know that the title of that message was "Real Men Pour In." You didn't even know that all that stuff he was talking about, he was talking to the man, and then he understood that when he's poured into, how he pours into his wife, and he gave us examples of how he does that. It all starts, if the man is not connected, it's not going to work. If the man is not connected, it's going to be a breakdown. I'm telling you now, from this, I know for me going forward, I know if the man is not connected, it's not going to work. It's a wrap. It's just not going to work, because you know why? Just like I told y'all earlier, he's empty. When you're empty, you can't give me no water because you're empty. You don't get it. Only thing can give me water is the cup that's full. See, this one right here, he poured in, so he's going to get filled up. But how does he get filled up? He goes back to God. God keeps filling him up to keep filling me up. Until we understand this, it ain't going to work. You guys, I love you so much. Okay, we got one more comment, and then I'm out of here, because I didn't expect to do this tonight. But look at that. That's right at 1 hour. Oh, Reverend Jane said, she said, I have one. Here's another comment. We are too anxious to look for something to judge others on. The wrong and not the right. Exactly. And that and also not just, I mean, also being anxious, but not understanding. That's what I saw today. It broke my heart. It broke my heart. I said, they are crucifying this man. They are crucifying him, and they don't even understand. He ain't even talking to the women. He's talking to the men. He's telling the men, y'all get y'all stuff together. You learn how to pour into our women. You learn how to pour into our children. You learn how to pour into those servants. Remember, we're talking about the employees, the people that come in your presence. You pour into those that God has presented to you. You pour into them. Because if you're taking from them, if you're hurting them, if you're abusing them, if you're leaving them less than, God's going to hold them accountable. And now I understand why so many men, and I've seen this, I have witnessed this in my own life. When I see it's time for women, for the man to go to his death, when it's time for him to die, okay? I see why they have such a repentant heart and they want to apologize. I've seen it happen over and over and over again with men. They want to apologize because they realize their whole life they lived it and they never been a poor. They were a taker. They left their whole family like that, and they left the burden on the wife. That's why we have our women that's going to the graves that have never lived. Because they always been in a position of being a giver. And the man has just been a taker, and they're depleted. And they don't know how to speak for themselves. And they want somebody to listen to them. Everybody is not a me where I can say, deuces, I'm out of here. A lot of women can't do that. They're trying to figure out where's the money coming from. And even me, I didn't have no money, but I was saying this, I'm getting the heck out of here, and I'm just going to start with nothing before I stay in this mess. And I did. And I trusted God to build me back one brick at a time, of which I in turn built my children back. I'm telling you. No, wait, somebody saying, no, that's not really what he was saying. Yes, that is what he was saying. You go back and listen to it. Who is this? Scoop 615. I listened to the beginning to the end, and you probably just listened to one little segment. No, ain't no most men nothing. Most men can't love because they're too. Most men can't love because they're too. So who's too selfish? As far as TGJ's concerned, y'all too selfish. I'm sorry, don't get me, because I'm gonna start going back and forth. Now, who is this? Mr. Dabney says, I didn't hear Bishop's message. I need to go back and listen to it. We really do need to go back and listen to it, because they took it out of context and they crucified him to death. So if y'all, I'm gonna say it again, if you see that he's been crucified and you hear people talking, if you hear people saying things that don't apply to his message, the first thing I'm gonna tell you is listen to the message. And Scoop, I'm talking about who you talking about. I'm saying, when I say y'all, I'm talking about men, because that's who he was talking about. Now, don't be coming in here in my middle of my live now and you coming in the end and trying to figure it out. I'm sorry, because y'all know now I'll get with you. Don't be coming in here trying to disrupt and you don't know what's happening. Now you go back and listen to the message so you'll know that y'all was y'all, men. He was talking to you, not us. But Bishop need to get his own kids and family in order. And that's the problem right there. Now y'all see, this man is Scoop615 on TikTok. And he's saying Bishop need to get his own kids and family in order. This is the mess we've been talking about tonight. This right here. Okay, this is right exactly. I'm so happy he piped in because this is exactly what I'm talking about. This behavior, this is a taker. Okay, this is a taker. Oh, she said I'm a woman. Well, then this is the same thing I'm talking about too, because the women didn't listen. I'm sorry, you look like a man from your picture, but the women did not listen. So if you go back and listen to the message, Scoop615, if you go back and listen to the message, you will understand Bishop T.D. Jakes was talking to the men the entire time. His whole message was about real men pour in. That was the title of the message. Real men pour in. So go back and listen to it so you'll have an understanding. Bernae said, when my brother died last month, I called my male friend to tell him about it and for comfort. And he told me he was too busy to come to me. See? That's what I'm talking about. They have to be pourers, not takers. Not takers. All right, you guys, I'm going to end this. You guys, thank you so much. I'm tired. TikTok has conked out. I mean, not TikTok. Who is this? Instagram has conked out. But listen, I'm going to go ahead and end this now. I love you guys so much, okay? Let me go ahead and we will do the outro, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. All right. Bye-bye, guys. Until next time.